Kevin, welcome. Before we even get into anything, congrats on the recent fundraise. $1 billion valuation, unicorn company, unbelievable. I think amazing accomplishment and just shows the results of what your team is building. So congrats.
Yeah, thank you, Rodney. I feel like they should stop calling it unicorns now because I think it was originally that they called them unicorns because having a private company valuation of $1 billion was so rare. It was like a unicorn, didn't exist, really. Well, now I think we had 100 new ones in Q2 alone in the United States. So it's an amazing accomplishment, but obviously fundraising isn't the goal. Like the goal is to serve more and more merchants. I mean, we're very serious when we say we want to bring Amazon level logistics to the masses of folks who want to own their brand. And we're not even close to done. The funding is just a means to that end.
Yeah, the bar just gets higher every single time, but it shows at least what you've done and where you've set the bar today. So I'm excited to have this. And, just jumping directly into this, tell us a little bit about ShipBob and who you are, what you do, and how you're different than the rest of the companies in your sector.
Yeah, sure thing, Rodney. So again, as you mentioned, I'm Kevin. I lead partnerships at ShipBob. ShipBob, what is ShipBob? First of all, it's an odd name. What does the Bob even stand for? So we like to say that the Bob in ShipBob, because obviously we ship things, but the Bob stand over backwards because we bend over backwards for our merchants, who are our customers. In reality, it was just the cheapest domain name available when we started this business as a scrappy little startup out of someone's apartment in Chicago. But I think, it really goes to our ethos. We are a customer, really merchant-centric third-party logistics company, meaning we do outsource fulfillment. If you want to send us your physical inventory from your manufacturer, we will receive it, barcode it, store it. We will warehouse it for you in one of our 25 plus locations globally. And then just like Amazon FBA, we will automatically pick, pack, and ship orders as they come in same day. And we will get them to their end destination, whatever time frame you desire. It could be standard ground shipping, or it could be 2 days or less guaranteed, similar to Amazon Prime. So think of us as Amazon Prime's backend, all that infrastructure and scale and efficiency, but for brands that really want to own their experience. If they want custom packaging and not an Amazon box with Amazon tape. If they want to maybe have a more premium product and they don't even want to sell on Amazon because they want to really create an elevated experience, we'll do that. So that's like essentially who we are. We exist to serve merchants and be your outsourced chief operating officer, essentially.
Sounds like an unbelievable value prop, especially with today, with all the e-com direct-to-consumer business and the complexity that they have. I think you're going to build upon this. Why would you want to partner with a 3PL or ShipBob in general?
Yeah, so broadly speaking, I think there are two main benefits of thinking of outsourced fulfillment, because everyone's got options, right? I mean, the options broadly are you can fulfill it yourself, which means you either are a small size and you do it out of your garage, and you better have a big garage, or you hire staff and rent a warehouse, or you do it with an outsourced provider. I guess there's a third option, which is drop ship directly from a manufacturer, which is fine too, but there are pros and cons to all those approaches. When it comes to outsourcing with a 3PL, any 3PL, not just ShipBob, although of course we do this, the main benefits that we think it offers versus the other two are, number one, automation. You do not, unless something goes extremely wrong, like your product arrives damaged from a manufacturer, you don't have to do anything. I mean, you set up ShipBob once, or any 3PL, and orders flow automatically from your source of data, whether it's a marketplace like Walmart or Amazon, or whether it's your own website with like Shopify or BigCommerce. And orders will just flow automatically. You don't have to lift a finger. So the automation saves you so much time. I mean, especially for SMBs, you're going to save 20 to 30 hours a week just by using an outsourced provider. And then the second thing is scale. So to me, like a great thing to think about when you think about outsourcing your operations is, can it scale horizontally with me? Meaning, like, if I enter a new market, can this 3PL work with me in that market or help me launch in that market? Because there may be regulations I'm not aware of, carrier relationships. Obviously you want to be in the market so you can avoid tariffs and customs and things like that. So can a 3PL help me scale into a new market? Similarly, scale operates vertically as well. So like vertical scale to me is, let's say your brand blows up because you get a Good Morning America placement, or you do a huge ad campaign for Black Friday. You want to make sure that your 3PL or your operations department in general can handle that influx of volume. And so for an outsourced provider, an extra 5,000 orders in a weekend is no problem. But imagine if you're doing that yourself. I mean, you're calling your kids back from college to help you in, fulfill orders, and you're probably getting neighbors from down the street to pay an hourly wage. It's going to be hard. So I think automation and scale are kind of the two watchwords here.
Yeah, to build upon that, at Anvyl, we talk about both of those two things. And automation, just outside of time savings, it's also headcount savings. So you could automate your processes. You don't have to throw people at issues, which is super beneficial to any company. That really resonates with us. And I think everyone kind of understands that, and why moving away from these manual processes, manual like stakeholders, is so important.
Yeah.
It's good to hear who you are, what you do. When would you tell people that they should work with ShipBob or 3PL?
Yeah, I think, Rodney, you just alluded to one, which is where you're faced with a decision on whether you need to hire a human being or rent a warehouse or kind of outsource it. I mean, that's probably the most linchpin moment of when you really need to make this decision and think about hiring a 3PL to outsource your ops. Volumes just get too big to manage. Typically, historically, we see that threshold being around the few hundred orders per month threshold, where you're just going to be going to the post office constantly, or you're going to have to start thinking about hiring someone pick, pack, and ship from like some location. That's a great one. And what you're essentially doing there, like, not to get finance nerdy here, but I'm kind of a finance guy by background. What you're essentially doing when you outsource 3PL is you're moving a lot of fixed costs, things that you can't save money on ever. Even if you increase in volume, like they're going to be fixed. But if your business doesn't increase in volume, you're going to still have to pay that money. You're going to move those fixed costs that are very risky into variable costs. So you're going to basically pay a little bit more on a per order basis to outsource than you would self-fulfilling, but you save money on salaries and you save money on, warehousing space, which can cost a lot. And so I always like the idea of framing it that way, because it becomes like a de-risking moment for your business. Instead of like taking on a person's salary and potentially benefits and like a contract for a 12-month rent that might be several $1,000s per month, you can de-risk that and get it off your bottom line and move it into per order. And maybe you make a little bit less margin, although we'll talk about how it's not as much of an impact as you think in a second, but it's de-risking your business massively. For any fast-growing e-com business, that's huge. So that's number one. Number two, I mentioned international expansion. We're probably the biggest 3PL that has done this, but there are several others where we've started going and opening up franchises in other countries so that you can use the same system, the same provider, the same tech, the same connection to your Shopify store, everything. But then you get placement in Australia, and you can be 2-day delivery anywhere on the East Coast of Australia, which is where 90% of the population lives. So that scale aspect is really important to considering a 3PL. And we have a ton of brands that come to us and say, hey, I'm actually doing pretty well in the US. I fulfill directly from my manufacturer, but I'd really like your help with Canada, or I'd really like your help with the EU, or I'd really like your help with the UK. So that's another area to consider as well. And then finally, when brands start to get bigger, the complications increase. And so when you think about like things like dimensional weight reduction, so you can reduce your cost of shipping. When you think about things like DDP versus DDU, where you're paying these up front versus having the customer pay for them. When you think about zone skipping, like all of these are pretty sophisticated concepts that are hard to manage yourself if you don't have operational expertise or you don't want to hire it. And so essentially when you could hire a 3PL like ShipBob is where you start to get more sophisticated needs, and you're really in that like optimization zone where you want to tweak the dials on your business. Hire us, because we've done this and we have experienced operators with 40 plus years of experience in our warehouses. So you don't have to like become an expert in DDP versus DDU if you hire us. So those are the main three.
Yeah, I remember going back to the international expansion when we were at Harry's and we're going from here in the US and going to Europe, finding a different DC. You have to do API EDI connections into your site, into your POS. And we're talking about it takes months and months and months just to get up and running. And, speed is a valuable tool, especially nowadays, how competitive the market is. And having a ecosystem like that is just so beneficial. And obviously in the past, we didn't have that.
Right.
Super.
And you're totally right. Like, just to expound on that, I talked with a brand today, major A-list celebrity that we're working with who's launching, a consumer products brand. And they have this, whole implementation team. There's like 8 people on the call who are used to what you just mentioned, months implementation timeline of EI and this and that and the other thing. And we showed them our native Shopify integration because we build our tech in-house here at ShipBob. And they were astounded. Like they almost couldn't believe that it was as simple as 1-2 clicks and you could get started in less than 8 days. Like, because they're used to that old world. Everything's got to be this like big project that you have to manage in a bespoke way with this big team. That's not the world anymore. The world now is technology has simplified a lot of those things for us. And, a provider like that would have taken 3 months to implement with a big brand is now, able to get up and running in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, and just think if they didn't have a tech team internally, the pain for just hiring someone to do it for you, just it's a beast and not something I would ever want to do. You were kind of touching upon a few of this, Kevin, but what's the benefits and drawbacks here? We're going with the 3PL.
Yeah. Let's talk about the cost piece first, because I think all of the operators on this call are going to realize that like shipping at the end of the day is a cost center. I mean, it's tough. So for me, one of the trade-offs that you make when thinking about outsource do it yourself is variable cost versus fixed. We already touched on it, but I'd like to like needle in on the variable cost piece because we are leveraged. That's like the biggest thing that a big 3PL can do for you. We negotiate huge volume discounts from USPS, UPS, FedEx, local carriers that you would never have access to ever as a brand until you get to the Procter & Gamble wants to buy you size, right? And so like native code deodorant. And so we're like providing the leverage for you on the cost side so that the variable cost increase, even though you have to pay us for labor and packaging, because we're doing that for you, it's not that much more than doing it yourself because we have such steep volume discounts that you would never have access to otherwise. So I always like to paint the picture of, let's imagine you are self-fulfilling and you buy a USPS label off like Shippo or something, or off Shopify directly. If you pay $10 for that label, let's say it's a 2-pound package going from, I don't know, like Southern California to Chicago, my hometown. If you pay $10 for that today, and you're not, of course, considering like all the labor that let's throw that out the window for a second. Let's like take your labor out of the consideration. You're probably only going to pay like $11, $11.50 to us. So it's really not that much more, but what you're getting is full outsourcing, complete and utter like outsourcing of your operation. So you don't have to lift a finger. So like, it's not like a 30%, 40%, 50% increase on your cost today. It's actually a very small amount because we're negotiating those bigger discounts. But that's one thing to think of. If you prefer fixed costs, that's one thing to think about. The second thing to think about is control versus automation. So like we provide a lot of automation out of the box. We do provide some customization as well. Like you can add a custom package so that we'll put everything in your branded box. You can add custom marketing inserts for holidays. Like you can add all that customization yourself with us, but you're not going to have like the level of complete like control that you would if you operate your own warehouse. I mean, that's just not like, you're not going to be able to print on demand a specific like, or handwrite a gift note. You're not going to be able to do that with an outsourced provider. It's just really, really difficult to operationalize and scale. And so there is a trade-off between control and automation that you're going to have to make. And then the third thing is, how much do you want to own your brand versus like put it on an assembly line and just run it? Like typically a lot of 3PLs won't allow you to fully own your brand. We're a little bit different in that case because our mantra is like customization at scale, but most 3PLs won't allow you to like fully customize your brand experience with like tissue paper and maybe a custom sticker. And like I said, a custom note and a marketing insert and a promo code. Like that's going to be really difficult to operationalize with most 3PLs. So you're going to have to think about those trade-offs.
Yeah, and that's a lot of differentiation when you have that as well. You have custom inserts, kind of like surprise and delight. And when you're able to do that, it's like huge benefit for retaining customers in the long run.
Yep.
We hear a lot about 3PLs versus 4PLs. What's a 4PL and what are the benefits of both of these?
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the folks that are on in the chat, has anyone heard of a 4PL? Or has anyone, better question, has anyone not heard of a 4PL? Just go ahead and pop it in the chat because I think this is an interesting trend in the market that maybe some folks aren't aware of. And I'll wait like maybe a couple seconds here. Okay, sounds like a couple people have not. Awesome. So there's a new trend in the space where essentially a 4PL is a fourth party logistics. 3PL is third party logistics, right? So it's like an outsourced like party or entity that's handling your fulfillment. 4PL is fourth party. And so what a 4PL really is it's just a technology layer that grabs your orders from Shopify or whomever, then delegates them to multiple 3PLs. And so benefits and drawbacks to that, right? On one hand, the benefit is a 4PL can scale very, very quickly because they can say, hey, Joe's fulfillment in California and Rodney's fulfillment on the East Coast, we're going to delegate you orders. You're going to get free business. And all you need to do is agree to be part of our network and accept orders from us, right? Easy scale. The problem with the 4PL trend that we've seen is that it's really hard to do quality control. So when you think about like Shopify Fulfillment Network, for example, is a 4PL. Shopify has nothing to do with the actual warehouse management software. They have nothing to do with the fulfillment of the orders. All they're doing is delegating to partners. And once you delegate an order to a partner, it kind of goes into the void of Shopify no longer controls everything about that order, right? They have no visibility to it. And that can be really challenging when forgive my language, when shit happens, because it's logistics and that happens all the time. Like COVID hits, you have carrier delays. FedEx has crazy volume during the holidays. They impose pickup limits on different 3PLs. That kind of stuff happens. So 4PLs are a very common or a very emergent, I should say, trend right now. I think the big ones are Shopify Fulfillment Network and Deliver. But it's very different from a 3PL, which is saying, like we are firmly in the 3PL camp here at ShipBob. We are saying we fully own and operate our fulfillment centers with our software, and we take full accountability to once the order is with us to getting it to where its end destination, end of story. And we control every aspect of that. So it's a little bit of a different trend, and I just wanted to expose people to it in that way.
Yeah, I think what's always important here is issues arise throughout the supply chain always. So if you could pick up the phone and actually talk to someone about that issue, it's a huge advantage. And I think that everyone wants that customer service. And if you order something that goes away into some queue that you mentioned, good luck figuring that out or having some kind of solution against that. We have about one more question here. Sorry, we have a few more questions here, but please ask questions throughout. And I want to field those because it's really important from the audience that we answer whatever it is that you want to be answered. So switching gears here a little, Kevin. This strategy can be helpful to navigate the logistics crisis we are facing now. Everything you said, and I'm going to build upon this is just a little bit. What have you seen happening with COVID, good and bad?
Well, gosh, I mean, anyone who's an operator on this call can tell you the good, which is that most industries that ship e-commerce, ship direct to consumer, on an e-commerce website have seen an increase in volume with COVID. Like, I think there are some exceptions like apparel, like high-end apparel and fashion, but all boats rose a little bit higher because a lot of people were forced to be at home. So I think that's the unquestionable benefit. I think, the detriment has really been on the supply chain side. And so all of us can feel that pain here. Number one, manufacturer delays. Number two, port delays. I think that's really the biggest pain point that we're seeing right now is port delays. I mean, it's really, really challenging to navigate. And then three, of course, carrier delays, because at least in the United States, and I think most countries are like this in the developed world, you're really beholden to carriers for last mile delivery because of the infrastructure needed. There aren't a lot of small carriers or smaller options. You have to go with usually the big four. So we've seen a lot of challenges, I would say, in that regard. But broadly speaking, what we've learned is this. The closer you are to your end customer and the more flexibility with last mile delivery you have, the better off you're going to be during a crisis like COVID, or it could be a hurricane or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter what the crisis is. But generally, the closer your physical goods are to your customers and the more flexibility you have in last mile, the better off you're going to be. Anecdote. So COVID hits, volumes go crazy, FedEx is panicking, FedEx starts imposing carrier pickup limits on 3PLs like us. So they said, hey, your Moreno Valley facility in Southern California, which is our flagship facility, tons of packages, like 60, 70,000 a day. They basically said, we're only going to pick up 500. Huge problem, right? All of our customers are going to have late orders that have picked FedEx to supply with. So what we did and what we were able to do because of our flexibility is we took all California orders from those few days where FedEx said they aren't picking up anymore, and we migrated them to other carriers that would pick up from us and would get there in time within California. And then for the rest of non-California orders, we shifted the order assignment from the Moreno Valley FC to our fulfillment centers in Dallas, Texas, or Chicago, or wherever. So we were able to fulfill in the same SLA. We were able to achieve the goal that our customers set for us of fulfilling the same day and getting it to its end destination in 2 to 3 days. But we did it because we have a lot of flexibility in moving both the carriers around, the carrier selection, and moving the physical goods around into different places. So that's how we kind of like navigate those types of crises.
That's good. I'm gonna field a question here. Brendan asked, and we actually, funny enough, talked about this a little bit yesterday or on Monday. How do you utilize custom packaging or print collateral suppliers for your brands? Do you have someone preferred that they should use?
Yeah, Brendan, good question. There's two, when I think about custom packaging, there's two types. Number one is custom packaging that can be stored as a normal SKU. So for example, if you have a branded packaging that you want to put all your orders in that just has your logo on it and it's got your color scheme and it just looks nice, that's super easy. We have like 3 or 4 recommended partners that we work with, but if you have your own, that's fine too. You basically just send us those custom packages, those custom boxes or polymailers, like flattened. We store them as a normal product in our warehouse, barcoded everything. And then we auto assign via a rule that you would set up with us. It's really easy to do. We would auto assign one of those custom boxes for every order. And it's actually smart enough because it's algorithmic. It's smart enough to know if you have multiple sizes to assign it to the right size order, so that if you have a big order, it goes in a big custom box. If you have a small order, it goes in a small one, et cetera. So we have all this logic that's built into our system to make sure that when the order gets picked, it gets picked with the custom box. It gets packed in your custom box according to your specifications. We actually show a video to our packers to make sure that it gets packed exactly the right way you want it. And then it gets shipped off to the customer. Easy peasy. The second type of custom packaging is like on-demand print. So that's like printing out something that says, hey, Kevin, you ordered this thing, like happy graduation from Aunt Karen. Like that is a different ballgame. That is very difficult to achieve. We do a little bit of that. We do custom gift notes. We can't do custom printing and achieve quality at scale. So typically what you would do, if you wanted like a real custom print, you would work with a custom print supplier for those orders, and you would split the orders that are not bespoke off into us, and then you'd split the orders that are really custom off into that custom print supplier. We do it all the time.
Kevin, you also were talking about the marketing aspect of this and how, it's a way to market itself and the advantage of it. You touched a little bit about like the capabilities that you have to give you leverage for different SKUs, right, within this for branding, for marketing purposes. But you were mentioning on Monday a couple other things that may be important to bring up here.
Yeah, so one of the things that I love, and I really stole this soundbite from somebody else that I met, but I loved it. Shipping and unboxing is really the new loyalty marketing. So think about that as a brand. I mean, all of you guys are operators, right? Your marketing is a huge element of direct to consumer. And loyalty marketing is really important if you want to own your brand. But you'd be scratching and clawing and working your butt off to get to a 50% open rate on your email campaigns from all your previous customers. So, I mean, that's great. Email marketing is and should be part of your strategy. But when you think about the unboxing experience, why would you ignore that? That's the only thing that you're ever going to do that's going to have a 100% open rate from a marketing perspective. So my challenge to all of you as brands is figure out what your unboxing experience should be like if you thought of it as marketing and not as cost. Think about, would you do like custom coupon codes where if you buy product A, which is your flagship product, you have a coupon code to come back and buy product B, which is your new product that you're promoting. Think about promotions for holidays. Like if somebody orders in the month leading up to Black Friday in the United States, why not give them a coupon code for Black Friday weekend only? We can operationalize all of that for you. We can automatically put them in orders, and you have basically very little to do on your end. Like we'll take care of everything. So thinking about unboxing and shipping as actually a marketing lever and not just a cost center, I think is a really powerful concept.
Seems like you're giving brands a magic wand.
I think the smart brands have figured this out. You know what I mean? Or I mean, obviously there are product types that aren't as friendly to this type of thing, and there are product types that are really friendly to this type of thing. Like I think about Allbirds, I think about Native Co. I think about some of these really great e-com native brands that have a fantastic unboxing experience. I think it behooves the smaller guys to figure out how they do that without breaking the bank when they don't have the resources of those bigger brands.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to 4PLs, there's a question from the audience. any specific businesses that should use a 4PL, and why?
I think where you might consider a 4PL versus a 3PL is if you have a really vanilla fulfillment or product process. So like if you're just shipping widgets where, like it's not really about the brand experience as much, you don't need custom packaging, you're just going to ship standard speed, you don't care about 2-day delivery as much. If you don't have any like bundles, like meaning like, hey, buy a 3-pack of this product. If your fulfillment is really, really simple and you have like lower volume, I would definitely consider a 4PL because it's going to be easy for you to set up and you don't have to worry about anything. But if you're really trying to scale, I mean, I'm super biased because we've firmly made the decision as ShipBob not to be a 4PL. We had a fork in the road where we could have chosen that and we decided not to do it. Because I think it falls down is the more complex stuff. Like when you want to do customization, when you want to do a bigger scale, when you want to get 2-day delivery guaranteed to your customers, it's really challenging to do.
It's good feedback. Everyone loves stories, and they love to hear like who you work with, etc. Who have you used 3PL successfully? What brand? What person?
I think there's a couple stories that I could probably tell that are super fun ones. Two of them spring to mind, and I always like to highlight like a marquee, like big customer who's done it well, and then like a smaller customer because I'm a small e-commerce seller myself. I have a side business, and I'm a little guy, so like I want to hear how the little guys were able to succeed. So we'll talk about both. I think the big like marquee brand for anyone who knows or follows American football is Tom Brady. So Tom Brady's brand TB12. Mostly supplements oriented, but some merchandise as well. He's obviously the best quarterback of all time, the best arguably American football player of all time. And so his brand team came to us and asked us to help them scale. And we do a ton of volume with them. We have them in 5 or 6 fulfillment centers across the United States, so they can basically do 2-day delivery guaranteed with really, really cheap rates because they're so close to their end consumer. The team is great to work with. It's just been a really fun story. The next one, because obviously Tom Brady doesn't want to worry about fulfillment. Like that's the last thing on his mind. He's worried about being the best quarterback of all time. His brand team is worried about how do they make the best product that reflects the best player of all time. So like we are completely outsourced operations for them. I think a smaller one that is Primal, Prymal, and you guys should definitely look up Primal. They make like a healthy keto-friendly, diet-friendly coffee creamer of all things. And their brand story is so cool. Their founder just kind of wanted to create the product and did. They didn't have a lot of stuff when it came to operations. So they hired when they were really small. They were only a couple of hours per month. But now they've blown up because they're able to focus on what they do best, product development and marketing. We've taken care of everything up for them. They went from being a moonshot brand, like when they're doing a couple hundred orders per month. Now they're opening up a brick and mortar store. They're in multiple warehouses. They're scaling internationally. They're just doing really well.
Good story in both great companies. There was just a viral video with Tom Brady recently, a pretty cool video. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. It's kind of funny. Everyone has to do, strategic sourcing and, find somebody and compare them and figure out if they're good for their business. What considerations should a brand take into account when they're making on a 3PL, a decision around the 3PL?
Yeah, so I think there's so many because it's a very fragmented industry, but the first thing that I'd say before anything else is customer experience. If you're outsourcing your operations to a 3PL, you're sending them your physical products. That's like giving them your firstborn baby if you're an entrepreneur. I mean, that's hard to do. So there's got to be trust. So make sure that you're talking with a couple of people throughout the sales cycle. You're inquiring on their website. Make sure you get a good feel from the folks that you talk to. That's number one. Of course, that's table stakes for any partner in your business. The second thing is locations. So like some people really like to have locations in specific areas or geographies where most of the customers are. That's always important to vet out. Some 3PLs, like smaller ones, only have a couple locations, so you want to vet that out. Obviously, bigger ones like us, like we're gonna have locations all over the United States and internationally. So usually that won't be a problem. But think about locations. The third thing that I would say is like, how customized can you get? Maybe you don't want to do custom packaging now, but ask the question, what do you guys charge for custom packaging? Because I might want to, really elevate my brand experience a year from now when I'm up and running more. And if my 3PL can't do it, that's tough because then you're stuck or you got to move and that's expensive. So think about customization and think about it in the future, not just what you need now. And then the final thing is tech. People undersell this all the time. 3PLs historically were dinosaurs. I mean, literally working on Excel sheets. Like you'd be on the phone with your 3PL. Like there's one that we've worked with a little bit in Mesa, Arizona. And I mean, we're talking every day you export your order history from Shopify and you send that to, or you just give them a login to your Shopify store and that's it. That's like the level of technology that they have, right? It's like a Microsoft Excel. The modern world is different. And so it needs a different solution. Ask about the technology that's offered. Ask if it's a one-click integration with your store or with a sales like Walmart or Amazon. If it's not one click, ask about what the process is and how much it costs. With us, there's no charge for anything, but some folks do charge. Ask about account management. Are you going to do you have access to a report that's online that shows you the exact status of your orders at any given time? You should, and not every 3PL is going to offer that. So ask about the technology aspect, ask what you get, and ask how much it costs too. I guess there's one more thing that is totally unsolicited, but it just occurred to me. Hidden fees. Everyone here hates hidden fees, I guarantee it. Unfortunately, because the logistics industry is so complicated with like carrier surcharges for weight or carrier surcharges for, holidays or whatever, it's complicated for packaging. Maybe packaging it doesn't include boxes. It only includes poly mailers or whatever. There's a lot of detail orientation that you have to have when you're trying to uncover these hidden fees up front. And so I would literally just ask, whenever you're talking to a 3PL, ask them what are the hidden fees? What's not on this sheet that I need to be aware of? Or do some Googling. With us, we try to make sure everything is included up front. We don't pass on carrier surcharges typically, unless it's a very extreme event. We typically absorb those ourselves. And we charge you what we were promised, but it's really, really hard because it's a complex industry. So ask about hidden fees.
I love this. And it just brings me back when I was, in a brand, and it's a competitive advantage, technology. And I don't think people realize that because both getting up and running, connecting all the systems, understanding things about like the receiver, the overstock, out of stock, the what's actually leaving your factory with your point of sale, what's actually like if you have issues and things are being stolen or whatever else happens inside. If you don't have technology, you're flying blind. And what happens and what we see is a lot of brands will think they're selling a product that they actually don't have in stock. And that's very painful to go back to your customer and tell them why they're not going to get it for 3 months. So
yeah, that's such a great point. And I think that's where Anvyl really shines too, is like you guys are giving that full manufacturer up to like where we come in, which is like the last mile in warehousing. You're giving that full picture beforehand. So like lead times, working with manufacturers, et cetera. We're giving you, if you add ShipBob to that mix, we're going to give you a sense of real-time stock that's pickable in every location at any given time in real time. And we'll actually send that for you back to Shopify or whatever your store is so that you can prevent overselling. If you use those two things in conjunction, you can really get much more sophisticated about your business. You can basically avail yourself as like an SMB or a mid-market seller. You can avail yourself of technology that 10 years ago was only available to the biggest of brands, which I think is so cool and powerful. Like what a world we live in now, that you can basically use two off-the-shelf solutions, Anvyl and ShipBob, and completely avoid out of stocks with a sophistication that only huge P&G level brands were doing 10 years ago. So cool.
It's a perfect tech vertical stack, truthfully, with so much value and benefit. This question's very, very, very tactical, but I'm interested to get your thoughts here. And I can share stuff too. So Reddy asked, his product or his or her product weighs 1 pound, retail price about $6. They're adding $11 towards picking and packing and shipping.
Oh, I see.
So $11 for pick, pack, and ship. There's probably more questions needed here to answer this. Does that holistically make sense?
Yeah, Reddy, let's talk in depth about this because I think this is really interesting. So you're saying your product MSRP, what you sell it for your website is $6. Obviously, you're not going to be able to absorb shipping cost in that unless you're sending it like maybe with a stamp envelope. I mean, that's a very low price point for a product that you'd be selling online. So typically what brands like you do that we work with is they have a free shipping threshold where under that threshold, let's say it's $5, they will not absorb the cost of shipping. They will pass that on to the customer, right? And then if it's over that threshold, let's say it's $25, you can either absorb the cost of shipping, at least free, like low, low speed shipping, I guess I would call it, like round rate, the cheapest shipping available, or you can like make it cheaper and give them a discount. And frankly, like we've done a bunch of analysis on this stuff. We find that offering a shipping threshold is more beneficial to brands because they increase their average order value, because people really want free shipping. So if you say like, hey, you can shop on my website and you're going to have to pay $5 shipping no matter what you buy, that's less effective than saying, hey, if you shop on my website, you're going to have to pay me, I don't know, $8 if you're under $25 total order value. But if you're over $25 order value, I'll give you free ground shipping. That is a much easier sell, and you're going to increase your average order value. Actually, we have a case study on our website, which maybe I'll link to you after the session, that you can read about how a brand with us increased their average order value about 97% by doing exactly what I just mentioned. Now, let's talk specifically and tactically about that $11. That was just an example. That is not the real amount. I would say for a less than 1 pound package, you're not going to be hitting the $11 threshold with us, even including pick, pack, ship, everything. Like you're going to be much lower than that. So don't worry. That was just an example.
Yeah, something seems off there. I would definitely pick up the phone and give you guys a call if that's what someone came back to me with.
Yeah.
A couple more questions here. Cross-border strategy with shipments. Going back to my Harry's days, we, had customers in Canada. We were talking about, moving things into Mexico and from Mexico to the US. What's some good strategies around cross-border shipments?
Gosh, this is such a long conversation. So I'll try to be brief. Typically brands want to go cross border because they see a volume lift. I mean, that's just common sense, right? Like the rule of thumb that I see with some of my partners that I work with is if you're a US only brand and you add Canada, you'll add 10% to your order volume. If you're a US only brand, you add the UK, you'll add another 15% to your order volume. That's just a rough rule of thumb, right? So if you want to increase your order volume, going international, especially to English speaking countries, is a great way to do it. It's tough though, it's very hard. And so what I would recommend if you're thinking about going international is think about number one, where you're going to ship the goods from. There are two options when you want to do this. If you want to ship from the US, let's say you have a warehouse with ShipBob in the US and you want to ship to Canada, you have to figure out customs on the point of every individual order. So you either have to charge customs up front to your customer, or you have to let them pay customs at the door when the package is delivered. I don't recommend the latter option because it's a low deliverability rate. It's going to decrease the ability to get your customer products because stuff gets caught in customs all the time. So I would always recommend duty delivery paid, DDP shipping, if you do it from one country to another country. We can help you with that. It's a little bit complicated, but we've done it before. We can do it. The next option is put your physical goods and warehouse them in the country where you want to fulfill. So like if you want to be in the EU and you want to sell in Germany and Spain and France, then you should be in the EU, right? Because then you won't have to pay customs every order, you pay it once up front. So that's another strategy that most folks take. And frankly, that's my recommended approach for any larger brand. It's a little bit more complicated to get the goods there, but once you get the goods there, it's super easy for the customer and it's cheaper. But again, long conversation.
Yeah. Very, very helpful though. It seems like now with COVID, things have been shaken up a lot more and there's all different strategies with moving, warehousing. So it's really helpful to hear.
Yep. And I'll put my name in the chat or email address in the chat too, if anyone wants to, talk more in depth about this kind of stuff.
And last question, what's a strong holiday strategy and timing to be successful? I'm sure you're getting tons of goods coming in right now.
Yeah, it's so weird to start thinking about the holidays when it's like 95 degrees in California, but But I mean, really, it's now. Like our operations team has already done what we call peak season, like holiday planning. So if you haven't yet, and you're a decent sized seller, you should probably think about it like right now. And I would say, if you're nervous to make a move before the holidays, don't be. Like, if you really feel like you need some scaled fulfillment before holidays, the time is definitely now to start a conversation, but don't be too nervous about it, because we've done this a million times before. So don't cut yourself off from pursuing things that you think are going to be important to scale your brand this year, but start thinking about it right now. I don't know if that answers your question. I guess I really just touched on timeline, but as far as like specific strategies, like, go to our blog. Our blog is actually really amazing. Our content team is fantastic. And we do some quantitative studies about like what's the most effective holiday sales strategy. And a lot of what we do is focus on shipping, because that's what we do for a living, obviously. But like, free shipping thresholds, automated 2-day delivery is really important for like Black Friday sales. If you're leading up to like a major holiday and there's like a deadline, you want to make sure that you maybe do a promotion like a week in advance before, like, let's say Christmas, so you can make sure all the goods get there by that date, right? And can be wrapped and put it on the tree or whatever. So there are a bunch of strategies on our blog. I would definitely encourage you to check it out. It's just shipbob.com/blog, and you'll see a bunch of case studies related to the holidays there.
Kevin, we're going to wrap up. Thank you for all of your knowledge across cross-border payments, marketing, 3PLs, 4PLs. I learned a ton. I'm sure everyone here did as well. Exciting times at ShipBob. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is the Anvyl team. I'm really bullish on your products. I think, like you said, it's a great stack if you want to completely automate a lot of those sticky operational things. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers.